على رسول الله. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Jawahir al-Qur'an with the Jews of the Quran in its pairs. And we have reached Surah Al-Anbiya, the prophets. Imam Al-Ghazali has a short selection, if you will, total of 10 verses, divided in two selections, 1 to 3. In fact, the third verse is only one part of it. And then verses 105 to 112. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اقترب للناس حسابهم وهم في غفلة معرضون. The time of people's judgment has drawn near, yet they are heedlessly turning away. Every activity, every day, no matter what, brings us closer. This is not a pessimistic worldview, not at all. Realistic, yes. Every day brings you closer to death. By definition, there is an appointed hour, there is an appointed day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept this knowledge to himself. And one day there will be no more universe the way we know it, no more Earth, our blue planet will not remain the same. All people will die, all people will be resurrected, and they will be held accountable. But right now, they are heedless. They are not paying attention. Maybe they don't want to pay attention. Plenty of escapism. You have the you listen to music day and night. You watch things day and night. Even those who become obsessed with sports, being obsessed with, but they don't want to be without gadgets. They don't want to ponder upon the universe. It scares them. It scares them. They'd rather be playing, and the second verse addresses that. ما يأتيهم من ذكر من ربهم محدث إلا استمعوه وهم يلعبون. Whatever new reminder comes to them from their Lord, they only listen to it jokingly. They are jokingly or simply being playful, being they're not serious. They don't take revelation seriously. And some of them, they are believers, but they don't want the whole package. For them, religiosity is at odds with enjoying life. Once I was asked by a school principal, an American school in Jerusalem, to give a lecture to the high school kids about Islamic theology, faith, and of course, in such these mostly are Palestinian kids who either were born and raised in the United States, or the United States is part of their culture, one way or the other. Spend time in the United States. So, what do you speak about? You speak about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing is like unto him. You speak about believing in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all the prophets. You speak about the revealed books. You speak about, and maybe I would stop with this, you speak about the angels. The moment I said that the angels do everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands them to do, they never disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their life is life of absolute devotion, absolute obedience. One of the high school kids asked, "But what do they do for fun? What do they do for fun?" Meaning that devotion, spirituality, religiosity, religion per se is not fun. That's a different worldview. I don't know if other cultures emphasize fun as much as the Americans do. A weekend, by definition, has to bring that kind of fun. So here it says, وَهُمْ يَلْعَبُونَ. They listen, but they joke, they play, they don't take it seriously. Their hearts being distracted. لاهية قلوبهم وأسروا النجوى الذين ظلموا هل هذا إلا بشر مثلكم أفتأتون السحر وأنتم تبصرون. But the very first, وهم يلعبون لاهية قلوبهم. So simply connect the end of verse number 2 with the beginning of verse number 3. Their state, their psychology, their psyche. وهم يلعبون لاهية قلوبهم. And in fact, think about it. The Romans used to have these fights between the slaves, between the slaves and big cats, lions, tigers, and on the assigned days for such games, they will give people free bread. Free bread. I think I've read half a loaf. Doesn't make much difference, really. So, entertainment. By the same token, it's the same. Football, soccer, if you will. Sports. Oh, of course, we need sports. We need to be active. Watching is different. Being obsessed with a specific club is different. And it's not only in our part of the world. I've seen it in Germany, people, youngsters, roaming the streets with their cars and blowing the horn, if you will, shouting and celebrating a specific team winning. But while the Romans distributed, and when it was free, and they gave them free bread. Today, people pay very large sums of money. A typical game in Europe, and an average seat for these famous clubs could be about €1,000, and people travel there. flights, hotels. So it's a state, a certain paradigm that exists that does not want people to be critical, to think, to ponder, especially when magic is not only the tricks that people, their performance. We talk about the narrative that is designed, the trivial narrative. When you cannot talk about the weather except if you just go outside and you get wet or moved by the wind, dramatizing things, and it should not be the issue. Now, from this verse all the way to 105, practically talk about 100 verses that are in between. I'm not going to read every single verse, but the theology presented in the following verses, it's about the reaction of the people regarding revelation. They accuse the Prophet ﷺ of being a poet, that this is nothing but poetry. They even accuse him of being insane. All these attacks on the person, but not dealing with the message itself. They do not want to deal with the message because the message will undermine the existing status quo, and especially when we talk about the leaders who will lose their position. And it does speak about the previous people who received revelation, rejected revelation, and they were punished. They were unjust to to themselves. The verse 30 أولم يرى الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي أفلا يؤمنون. The astrophysics and biology. Astrophysics, the universe, the heavens and the earth. Do the believers not realize that the heavens and the earth were once one mass? Then we split them apart. They were one. And we created from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? Regarding the first part about the astrophysics, the Big Bang Theory, I think that it, without subscribing to every single detail, because this is not my field, of course, but I understand enough. When time equals 0, so the scientists could go back close to that time. Remember that they have just doubled the age of the universe from 13.6 billion years to 26 billion years. And that's not a small adjustment. At any rate, they realized that there was a moment in which the universe was born. They don't understand where did it come from. They could only go back to that, to time equals 0 or close to that, even a fraction of a second. And then the universe from that moment on, including now, The universe is expanding. We don't realize we don't feel it, we don't internalize it. There's the speed of our own globe around its own axis, the speed of our blue planet around the sun and in an orbit. And of course, it's spiral really. The idea of having it's not a fixed orbit where you return. The Earth never returns, neither any other planet. It never returns to the same point. It's a spiral. Our sun, our solar system, there's an orbit, our sun around our own galaxy, the Milky Way, at a speed that is unbelievable. 514,000 miles per hour. And they estimate that only 2 galactic years. So this is verse 30 is it should really be an eye-opener. No, people did not know that the universe was expanding. This is only about 100 years old. So definitely Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would not have known وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ in a different verse. But they were once one mass. But even to say one mass, the universe is not eternal. Well, that's in the translation. The universe is not eternal. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the universe. And also physics becoming biology. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no possibility at all of physics becoming biology on its own. Earth, dust, and then you become this wonderful human being with 86 billion neurons and organs that it's amazing. With the human genome, the DNA, our skin, our bones, or everything about us. And immediately verse 31, وَجَعَلْنَا فِي الْأَرْضِ رَوَاسِيَ أَن تَمِيدَ بِهِمْ وَجَعَلْنَا فِيهَا فِجَاجًا سُبُلًا لَعَلَّهُمْ يَهْتَدُونَ. Rawasi, we have said this before. These are the mountains. These are firm to keep the earth from shaking beneath our feet, to prevent a continuous movement of the tectonic plates. And made broad pathways so that you may find your way, our way. And one of the most important facts about human beings is that they are mortals. كل نفس ذائقة الموت. This is verse 35. You are only tested with good and evil as a trial. Then to us you will all be returned. وإلينا ترجعون. Verse 44, and it's an amazing verse. Again, why would the Qur'an make such a claim? بل متعنا هؤلاء وآباءهم حتى طال عليهم العمر. This is still part of the theme before. In fact, we have allowed enjoyment for the Meccans, others too, and their forefathers for such a long time that they took it for granted. That's the meaning. Do they not see that we gradually reduce their land from its borders? Land, it's not the appropriate. Al-Ard, it's the earth. From its borders. Okay. Either we talk about size or we talk about mass. So it has to be a measurement. Now, does the earth um, lose mass? We have two issues here. One of them is that the earth does gain on daily basis, really, extra uh, weight, if you will, added to its mass. And there are estimates about 30,000 tons to 40,000 tons, 41,000 tons, maybe a little bit more. But the idea is that where does this extra weight comes from? Meteors, for example, dust, space dust. So, if we stop right here, we'll say this is contrary to what the Quran is saying. But the Earth does lose weight over time. For example, helium and hydrogen. And there's an estimation that the Earth loses about 90,000 tons. There's more modest numbers, 50,000 tons also has been mentioned, but still tiny. All these numbers, if we take the minimum, we compare it to minimum, maximum with maximum. So we compare the minimum of 40,000, there's even lesser number, 1,000 tons of matter that enters and land on Earth. We compare it to the minimum of 50,000. So maximum with maximum, but we are losing hydrogen, helium. In fact, it's every time your air balloon, your helium goes up, it might sneak into the space and get lost. Even on one can discuss this further, but the idea here is that the Quran is saying something that we could have never figured out this. It's impossible for people in the Arabian Peninsula at the time to know all these things that we have just mentioned, whether it's the reference to the universe being one mass or beginning with one mass, the water being essential for biology. Just think about hydrogen and oxygen, and add to this maybe the carbon, the mountains being like pigs, simply a weight to keep the first layer of the earth stable, and the reference to the earth that it loses part of its edge, its border, its of course we understand today this as losing part of its mass, and it could be even there could be even more information about this somewhere. What I've just discussed is a hint, let's call it, and a call for more studies, inshallah. we'll continue with Surah Al-Anbiya inshallah in the next session. Until then, subhanakallah wa hamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.